first time investigators began treating these stories seriously, it was not because of fear, but because of paperwork. Police reports, hospital intake logs, municipal archives, dry, indifferent documents kept echoing the same shapes that had once belonged only to rumor. What had circulated for years as warnings whispered between neighbors or dares traded by teenagers suddenly found anchors in dates, locations, and signatures. The unsettling realization was not that people had imagined monsters, but that the monsters had been filing forms, leaving evidence, and blending into the administrative noise of everyday life. In Staten Island, for decades, parents invoked a name to scare children home before dark. The figure was said to live in abandoned hospitals and tunnels, a boogeyman stitched together from neglect and cruelty, blamed for missing pets and unexplained screams drifting from the woods. The story hardened into ritual, repeated without scrutiny, until a series of disappearances forced a deeper look. What emerged was not folklore, but a man with a history, a trail of institutional failures, and access to exactly the forgotten places named in the warnings. The buildings existed, the tunnels were mapped, the victims were real. What had once functioned as a myth to impose order on children became, in retrospect, a crude early warning system, its exaggerations masking a far more banal and devastating truth about how easily violence hides inside civic blind spots. Elsewhere, a narrow bridge at the edge of a Virginia town became synonymous with panic. Drivers reported a figure in a crude costume attacking cars, vanishing into the trees. The story spread faster than verification, embellished with every retelling, dismissed by officials as mass hysteria. Then came the files. Assault reports spanning decades, consistent descriptions, weapons recovered near the site. The attacks did not conform to the theatrical image passed down in campfire lore, but they did not need to. The fear had already done its work, keeping people away from a place where someone had learned that isolation and repetition could outpace disbelief. The legend had not invented danger. It had simply failed to describe how ordinary it was. In Eastern Europe, during the Cold War, a different kind of story circulated, one that followed the shape of power rather than wilderness. People spoke in low voices about a black luxury car that slowed beside pedestrians, its tinted windows hiding occupants who never left witnesses. Officially, the vehicle did not exist. Unofficially, mechanics remembered servicing them, and factory records showed production runs that could not be explained. Survivors told of being questioned, detained, sometimes returned, sometimes not. The car became a symbol larger than itself, absorbing anxieties about surveillance and erasure. Yet the underlying machinery was real. The terror was not supernatural, but bureaucratic. Its horror rooted in how efficiently a state can turn mobility and anonymity into tools of disappearance. High in the Ural Mountains, long before the story gained its internet name, a group of experienced hikers failed to return. What followed was not a campfire tale, but a search operation that documented scenes so anomalous they resisted immediate explanation. Tents torn from the inside, bodies found without clear signs of struggle, scattered as if fleeing something no one could agree upon. For years, speculation filled the gaps left by incomplete conclusions, transforming the incident into a modern legend. Yet every photograph, every autopsy note, every recovered journal entry remained stubbornly real. The horror here was not that the truth was unknowable, but that it existed somewhere between natural forces and human vulnerability, defying the comfort of a single narrative, while confirming that the event itself was never fiction. In American cities, hotel workers quietly shared a warning among themselves about a smell that meant more than plumbing trouble. Guests, the story went, sometimes slept unknowingly above or beside the dead. For a long time, it sounded like occupational superstition, a way to process proximity to strangers and transients. Then cases surfaced across different states, separated by years but united by the same grim discovery. Bodies concealed beneath mattresses, behind walls, inside box springs. Police records confirmed what rumor had preserved. The legend endured because it described a violation of trust inherent to modern life, the belief that temporary spaces are neutral, when in reality they can conceal acts that outlast their perpetrators. On Staten Island sidewalks and Philadelphia streets, strange tiles appeared embedded in asphalt, carrying messages that seemed nonsensical, obsessive, possibly delusional. At first, they were dismissed as art school pranks or urban noise, yet they multiplied, spreading across continents, placed with precision that suggested planning rather than impulse. Researchers traced materials, installation methods, and recurring linguistic patterns. No single explanation emerged, but the phenomenon itself could not be denied. Someone, or several someones, had committed years of effort to insert fragments of private belief into public infrastructure. The legend was not that the tiles existed, but that they could be explained away as harmless. Their persistence suggested a quieter unease, that cities absorb and display our obsessions without ever asking permission. Perhaps most disturbing are the stories that turned out to be real because they never relied on spectacle at all. The babysitter receiving threatening calls from inside the house. The missing hitchhiker whose body is later found along a familiar route. These were dismissed for years as morality plays, designed to scare adolescents into obedience. Court transcripts and police files tell a colder story. Crimes repeated across regions, following patterns that fiction had merely simplified. The narrative survived because they encoded practical warnings in memorable forms, a cultural immune response to dangers too common to sensationalize individually. What links these cases is not their content, but their function. Each began as a way to explain unease, to give shape to the sense that something was wrong long before authority acknowledged it. They circulated in the gaps between official statements and lived experience, exaggerating where necessary, distorting where memory failed, but preserving a core that refused to disappear. When examined closely, the supernatural elements often fall away, leaving behind evidence of neglect, violence, secrecy, or indifference. The true horror is not that these stories were believed, but that belief was the only mechanism available to signal danger. In the end, the confirmation of these legends does not offer relief. It replaces the comfort of fiction with the weight of documentation. Knowing that the stories were real does not make the world safer. It reframes fear as a rational response to patterns we prefer not to see. The shadows they describe are not anomalies, but byproducts of how societies organize space, power, and attention. Urban legends endure because they are not created to deceive, but to survive, carrying warnings forward until someone is finally forced to listen.